The ground shook so hard that Lisa Morgan nearly dropped her coffee mug. She grabbed the edge of her desk as medical supplies rattled on the shelves around her. The lights flickered twice before the emergency power kicked in. Through the window of her small clinic, she saw a streak of fire cutting across the purple sky of 442. Something big was coming down. Lisa ran to the window and watched the burning object slam into the valley 3 miles from the colony. The impact sent a shockwave that cracked her window. Dust and debris shot up like a mushroom cloud. Her radio crackled to life immediately. All personnel, this is Administrator Blake. Unknown craft has crashed in Sector 7. All civilians are to shelter in place. I repeat, shelter in place. This is not a drill. Lisa was already grabbing her medical kit. She had been a paramedic back on Earth for 6 years before volunteering for frontier service. She knew that crash meant injuries, maybe deaths. Her hands moved automatically, checking her supplies. Bandages, antibiotics, saline bags, basic surgical tools. Not much, but it was all she had on this remote mining colony. She headed for the door. Her radio squawked again. "Morgan, this is Blake. Where do you think you're going?" Lisa keyed her radio. "Someone might be hurt. I'm the only medic we have." "Negative, we don't know what that ship is. Could be hostile. Security team will handle it." "With respect, sir, your security team doesn't have medical training. If there are survivors, they need help now." "That's an order, Morgan. Stay put." Lisa looked at her medical kit, then at the smoke rising from the valley. She thought about her brother Danny, bleeding out after a mining accident while help arrived too late. She had sworn then that she would never let anyone die waiting. She turned off her radio and ran for her transport vehicle. The drive to the crash site took 20 minutes over rough terrain. As Lisa got closer, she saw the ship was massive, at least twice the size of their colony's main building. It had torn a gouge through the ground for nearly a mile. Pieces of metal were scattered everywhere, still glowing red-hot. The main hull was cracked open like an egg. Lisa parked and grabbed her kit. The air smelled like burned metal and something else, something chemical that made her eyes water. She pulled her shirt over her nose and mouth and moved closer. Inside the wreckage, she heard a sound, a low, rattling breath. Someone was alive. She climbed over twisted metal, careful not to cut herself. The interior was dark except for sparking wires and small fires. The breathing grew louder. Lisa pulled out her flashlight and swept it across the cabin. Her light landed on something that made her freeze. It was huge, at least 12 feet long, covered in dark red scales that looked like armor plating. A massive reptilian head with horns curved back from its skull. 4 powerful limbs ending in claws that could tear through steel. A long tail that had been partially crushed under a fallen beam. Lisa had seen pictures in the colony database. They were one of the most feared species in the galaxy. Warriors, predators, the kind of aliens that made human diplomats nervous. This one was dying. Blood, black as oil, pooled beneath its body. One of its wings was bent at an impossible angle. Its breathing came in short, painful gasps. As Lisa's light hit its face, one massive eye opened, yellow with a vertical pupil. It focused on her with surprising awareness. "Stay back, human." The voice was deep, speaking through a translator device on what looked like the collar around its neck. "I am of the Bloodscale clan. I require no assistance." Lisa knelt beside the creature anyway, setting down her kit. "You're bleeding out. That wound on your side needs pressure right now or you'll die in the next 10 minutes. "Then I die with honor. Leave me." "Not happening." Lisa pulled out gauze pads and began tearing open packages. The wound was massive, easily a foot long and deep enough that she could see what had to be organs. She pressed the gauze against it hard, the hissed in pain. "Why do you do this? My kind and yours are not allies." "Because you're hurt and I'm a medic. That's all that matters." Lisa kept pressure on the wound while reaching for her IV supplies with her free hand. "I need you to stay still. You've lost a lot of blood and you're probably in shock." "Do not go into shock. We are stronger than that." "Great, then you're strong enough to let me help you." Lisa found a vein on the creature's forearm, surprisingly similar to human anatomy. She inserted the IV needle and started a saline drip. The watched her with that intense yellow eye. "You are either very brave or very foolish." "Probably both." Lisa wrapped more bandages around the creature's midsection, pulling them tight. The bleeding was slowing but not stopping. She needed better equipment. "Can you tell me what happened? Was there a fight?" I fled from my own people. They would see me dead for my crimes. What crimes? I refused to kill younglings, children of lesser species that my clan had captured. When I freed them, I became hunted. This breathing was getting worse. Leave me, human. When my clan discovers I survived, they will come. You should not be near me. Lisa ignored this and pulled out her portable scanner. It was designed for humans but might give her something useful. She ran it over the creature's body, multiple fractures, internal bleeding, possible poisoning from the ship's coolant system. The list of injuries was staggering. You need surgery. I can't do that here. Then I die here. It is acceptable. No, it's not. Lisa stood up and keyed her radio. She had turned it back on during the drive. Blake, this is Morgan. I need the emergency sled and the colony's surgical bay prepared immediately. Static, then Blake's angry voice. Morgan, I ordered you to stay at the clinic. What's your situation? I have a critically injured survivor. Massive trauma. I'm bringing him in. Him, what species? Lisa looked down at. The radio was silent for a long moment. Then, negative, absolutely not. Those things are killers, leave it there. He'll die without treatment. That's not our problem. Get back here now. That's a direct order. Lisa looked at. The creature was watching her with both eyes now, waiting to see what she would do. She thought about the oath she had taken back on Earth. First, do no harm, treat all who need treatment. The words had guided her through every emergency, every disaster, every moment when the easy choice was to walk away. Sir, with respect, I'm not leaving him. Lisa disconnected the radio and looked back at. I'm going to get you out of here. It's going to hurt, but you're tough, right? For the first time, something that might have been amusement crossed the creature's face. You are a strange human, Lisa Morgan. You can read my name tag. Good. That means your brain is still working. Lisa began setting up a makeshift stretcher from pieces of the ship. Now help me out here. Can you move at all, or am I dragging 12 feet of dragon by myself? The translator calls my kind dragons. This is acceptable. Tried to move and gasped in pain. I can crawl slowly. Good enough, let's go. Together, human and made their way out of the wreckage and toward Lisa's transport. Behind getting back to the colony took 3 hours. The transport was barely big enough and the still hung off the back. Every bump in the road made him hiss in pain despite his attempts to stay silent. Lisa drove with one hand while monitoring his vital signs with the other. His blood pressure was dropping. Not good. When they reached the colony, Administrator Blake was waiting with 6 security officers. All of them had weapons drawn. Morgan, step away from that thing right now. Lisa climbed out of the transport but stayed between the guards and her patient. He needs immediate surgery. I need access to the medical bay. Not happening. That creature stays outside the colony walls. Then he dies. Is that what you want? To let someone die because you're scared? Blake's face turned red. Scared? Those things are predators. They've raided human ships, killed our people. I'm not bringing one into our home. His voice rumbled from the transport. The administrator speaks truth. My kind has done these things. You should fear me. He coughed and black blood sprayed from his mouth. But I am dying. Soon I will be no threat to anyone. Lisa grabbed her medical kit. If no one will help me, I'll do it myself. Right here. Blake, I need lights and I need them now. You're making a mistake, Morgan. Probably, but it's my mistake to make. Blake stared at her for a long moment, then swore under his breath. Fine, but he stays restrained, and guards stay with you at all times. He pointed at 2 of his officers. You're with Morgan. If that thing makes one wrong move, you put it down. Understood? Yes, sir. The guards helped Lisa move to the medical bay. It took all of them to get the massive onto the surgical table, which creaked under his weight. Lisa immediately went to work, setting up monitors and IV lines. The 2 guards stood in the corner, weapons ready but not pointed. I need you both to assist, Lisa said without looking up. Hold pressure here while I work on this wound. Guard hesitated. Ma'am, we're not medical personnel. I know, but you're all I have. Just do what I say and don't let him bleed out. For the next 6 hours, Lisa fought to save life. She cleaned wounds, set broken bones, and stitched torn flesh. This biology was different from human in many ways, but surprisingly similar in others. Blood still needed to flow. Organs still needed to function. Bones still needed to be aligned properly. Stayed conscious through most of it, refusing the sedatives Lisa offered. My kind does not sleep under the knife. he said through gritted teeth. It is shameful. Your kind is going to pass out from pain if you keep this up, Lisa replied while working on his ribs. 3 of them were broken. There's no shame in accepting help. There is, for we are taught from hatching that weakness must be hidden. To show vulnerability is to invite death. A warrior who cannot fight is no warrior at all. Lisa paused and looked at him. That's a terrible way to live. It is our way. Well, your way nearly got you killed, so maybe it's time to try a different approach. She finished wrapping his ribs and moved to his damaged wing. This is going to hurt, a lot. Pain as expected, continue. As Lisa worked, began to talk. Maybe it was the blood loss, maybe the pain, maybe just the strangeness of having someone care whether he lived or died. He told her about his clan, about the raids they conducted on weaker species. He told her about the children they had captured, planning to sell them as slaves or entertainment. He told her about the moment he decided he could not follow those orders. I released them, 43 younglings of various species. I put them on an escape pod and launched it toward Coalition space. My clan discovered what I had done. The penalty for such betrayal is death, not a quick death, a slow one meant to serve as example to others. So you ran. I fled like a coward. This is why I should die. I have dishonored myself beyond redemption. Lisa set down her tools and looked him in the eye. You saved 43 kids. You risked everything to do the right thing. That's not cowardice. That's the bravest thing I've heard in a long time. Was quiet for a moment. Your species has strange ideas about bravery. Maybe, but at least our brave people get to stay alive. Lisa picked up her tools again. Now hold still. I need to set this wing bone. By the time dawn came, was stable. Not healed, not by a long shot, but no longer dying. Lisa sat in a chair beside the surgical table, exhausted. The 2 guards had relaxed somewhat, though they still watched the carefully. Guard brought Lisa a cup of coffee. You did good work, Doc. I'm not a doctor, just a paramedic. You saved his life with basic supplies. That's pretty impressive. Lisa sipped the coffee. It was terrible, but it was hot and caffeinated. Anyone would have done the same. No, said softly. They would not have. No would have saved me. I would have been left to die alone. Your mercy is incomprehensible to my people. Before Lisa could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the colony. Administrator Blake's voice came over the speakers. All personnel to defensive positions. Multiple ships detected entering orbit. Repeat, multiple ships approaching. Lisa ran to the window. Through the purple sky, she could see them. Sleek vessels, at least a dozen, bearing the markings of the Galactic Coalition. They were surrounding the planet. Tried to sit up. You must hide me. If the Coalition finds me here, they will take me. Take you where? To trial. I am wanted for crimes against my clan. They have convinced the Coalition that I am a dangerous renegade. Blake burst into the medical bay with more guards. Morgan, we've got incoming. Coalition Captain Pierce is demanding we turn over any survivors from that crash. She says they're wanted criminals. Lisa stood between Blake and, he's my patient. He's not going anywhere until he's stable. That's not your call to make. Actually, it is. Medical ethics. I don't release patients who are in critical condition. The Coalition doesn't care about your medical ethics. A new voice came from the doorway. Actually, we do. A woman in a crisp Coalition uniform stepped into the room. She was human, tall and professional-looking, with captain's insignia on her collar. Behind her stood 4 Coalition soldiers, their weapons holstered but ready. I'm Captain Pierce. We've been tracking that for 3 weeks. He's wanted for attacking his clan's leadership and stealing valuable property. The property was children, said. I freed slaves. That's not what the reports say. According to your clan, you killed several warriors and destroyed a breeding facility. The breeding facility was a prison. The warriors I fought were executing younglings who had tried to escape. Captain Pierce studied him for a moment. Those are serious accusations, but they don't match the charges filed with the Coalition. Lisa stepped forward. Captain, I don't know anything about galactic politics, but I do know this patient has life-threatening injuries and moving him right now could kill him. Whatever he's accused of, he deserves medical care first. He's a warrior, they're tougher than humans. He'll survive transport. Will he? Because I spent 6 hours putting him back together. His lung was punctured. His ribs are broken. He's lost nearly 40% of his blood volume. You move him now, those stitches open up and he bleeds out in your ship. Is that what you want? To bring back a corpse? Captain Pierce looked uncomfortable. I have my orders. Then change them, or at least delay them. Give him 48 hours to stabilize, then you can take him wherever you want. The captain considered this. You'd take responsibility for him. Yes. If he escapes or attacks anyone, it's on you. He's not escaping anywhere. Have you seen his injuries? Captain Pierce looked at, taking in the bandages and IV lines and the clear evidence of major trauma. Finally, she nodded. 48 hours, but my people will be stationed outside this room at all times. And Morgan, if anything goes wrong, you'll be charged along with him. Understood. After the captain left, Blake grabbed Lisa's arm. Do you have any idea what you just did? You just made yourself responsible for a wanted criminal. Lisa pulled her arm free. I made myself responsible for a patient. There's a difference. She sat back down in her chair beside, that was watching her with those yellow eyes. Why, he asked quietly, why risk so much for me? Lisa thought about her answer for a moment. Because when I look at you, I don't see a warrior or a criminal or even an alien. I see someone who needs help, and I'm a medic. Helping is what I do. Your species is very strange. You keep saying that. The 48 hours passed too quickly, was stronger but still far from healed. His wounds were closing, but he could barely stand without help. Lisa had done everything she could with her limited supplies. It was not enough. Captain Pierce returned exactly on schedule, flanked by Coalition soldiers. Time's up, Morgan. We're taking him to the Coalition capital for trial. Lisa stood beside Sped. He's not strong enough for transport yet. That's no longer your concern. My medical officer will handle his care during the journey. Your medical officer, does he have experience with biology? He has experience with multiple species. That's sufficient. Placed a clawed hand on Lisa's arm. It is acceptable. I knew this moment would come. You have given me more time than I deserved. You deserve a fair trial, not to be dragged across space while you're still recovering. Captain Pierce's expression softened slightly. Morgan, I understand your dedication to your patient. It's admirable, but the law is the law. He has to answer for his crimes. What crimes exactly? Saving children, refusing to participate in slavery. According to the official charges, he assaulted his commanding officers, destroyed clan property worth millions of credits, and violated treaty obligations between the people and the Coalition. The children are never mentioned in any report. Because his clan is lying. That's for the council to decide, not me. Captain Pierce gestured to her soldiers. Prepare him for transport. What happened next surprised everyone. As the soldiers approached, every monitor in the medical bay suddenly activated. Screens that had been dark lit up with the same message, repeated in dozens of languages. Attention Coalition forces. This is Daniel Brooks, Human Diplomatic Representative. I am invoking Medical Sanctuary Protocol under Section 7 of the Coalition Charter. The patient known as is under medical protection and cannot be moved without proper review. Captain Pierce grabbed her communicator. Brooks, what are you doing? A man's voice responded. My job, Captain. Section 7 is clear. Any being receiving life-saving medical treatment is protected from removal until a neutral medical board can assess their condition. I've already filed the paperwork with the council. This is highly irregular, but completely legal. Check your database if you don't believe me. Lisa watched as Captain Pierce pulled up something on her handheld device. The captain read for a moment, then swore softly. Fine, but this just delays things. The council will review the case within 72 hours. Then he's ours. After the Coalition forces left, the screens changed to show a man in his 40s wearing diplomatic robes. He had dark hair and a friendly smile. Hello, Lisa. I'm Daniel Brooks. I've been following your situation with great interest. How did you know about this? Your administrator Blake filed a report with the Coalition about harboring a dangerous alien. The report got flagged to my office because it involved a human civilian making first contact decisions. I did some research on you. Paramedic, 6 years experience, volunteered for frontier service after losing your brother. You have a history of not giving up on patients. Lisa felt her throat tighten at the mention of Danny. What do you want? To help, what you're doing here, treating this despite the risks, it's caught attention at the highest levels. Some people think you're foolish, but others think you might be demonstrating something important about human values. Rumbled from his bed, what importance is there in mercy to one warrior? Daniel's image turned to face the more than you might think. The coalition has laws about medical care, but they're based on economic models. You pay for treatment, or you have insurance, or you belong to a species with reciprocal healthcare agreements. There's no concept of treating someone simply because they need help. This is logical, said. Resources are limited, they must be allocated efficiently. Maybe, but Lisa here just proved that basic medical care, the kind humans have been practicing for centuries, can save lives that advanced alien medicine would write off as too expensive or too risky. That's powerful. Lisa sat down heavily. I didn't do this to make a statement, I did it because it was right. I know, that's what makes it so powerful. Daniel leaned forward on his screen. The council trial is in 3 days. They're going to examine Saxon's and decide if he's a criminal or a refugee. But they're also going to examine your actions, Lisa. Why a human would risk everything for an alien warrior. Your testimony could change a lot of minds. About what? About humans, about what we value, about what we bring to the coalition beyond technology and resources. The next 3 days were busy. Lisa continued treating while Daniel Brooks prepared their case. The diplomat arrived in person, bringing a team of legal experts and medical specialists. They examined, documented his injuries, and recorded everything Lisa had done to save him. Dr. Helen Carter was particularly interested in Lisa's methods. You treated her with basic human first aid? That shouldn't have worked. Why not? Lisa asked while checking bandages. Biology is significantly different from human. Their blood doesn't clot the same way. Their immune system operates on completely different principles. Standard human antibiotics should have been useless. But they worked. Yes, but we don't know why. Helen ran more tests, her eyes widening as she read the results. This is remarkable. It's like you accidentally found a universal approach. By focusing on basic life support rather than species-specific treatments, you addressed fundamental biological needs that all living things share. I just did what I was trained to do. Stop bleeding, stabilize the patient, treat pain and infection, keep them alive long enough to heal. Exactly, and that simplicity might be revolutionary. Helen looked at. Has anyone from your species ever received care like this? Never, who fall in battle are expected to die or heal themselves. Seeking aid is weakness. What about doctors, healers? We have bone setters for injuries that do not threaten honor, but major wounds, sickness, these are tests. If you survive, you are strong. If you die, you are weak. It is natural selection. Helen looked horrified. That's barbaric. His eyes narrowed. It has kept my species strong for thousands of years. It's also kept your species small, Helen countered. Population numbers are declining. You're dying out because you see medical care as shameful. The Big had no answer to that. The trial took place on the Coalition flagship in orbit. Lisa had never been on a starship before. The halls were enormous, designed to accommodate species of all sizes. Beings she had only seen in pictures walked past her. Tall, mantis-like, floating, jellyfish-like, crystalline that refracted light in rainbow patterns. And dozens of them all wearing the same clan markings as. They watched Lisa with hostile yellow eyes as she walked past. The council chamber was circular, with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from 100 species sat in judgment. At the center, 3 judges presided. One human, one member of a species Lisa didn't recognize. Was brought in with restraints on his wrists and ankles. He could walk now, though he moved stiffly. He stood on the platform with his head held high, showing no sign of his injuries. The lead judge, spoke in a clicking language that translators rendered into English. Of the Bloodscale clan, you stand accused of assault, theft, and violations of treaty law. How do you respond? I admit to all charges, but I do not regret my actions. Murmurs ran through the chamber. One of the observers roared something angry. The human judge, an older woman named Helen Martinez, raised her hand for silence. You admit guilt but claim no regret. Explain. I freed 43 younglings that my clan had enslaved. I struck down warriors who were executing children for sport. I destroyed a facility where innocents were bred for sale to the highest bidder. These actions violated clan law, but they were necessary. These are serious accusations against your clan, the third judge said. Do you have evidence? I have my word. The word of an admitted criminal. A large stepped forward from the observers. He wore elaborate armor and carried himself with authority. I am clan leader of the blood scale. This traitor has brought shame upon us all. He lies to cover his crimes. I do not lie. You destroyed our breeding program. Those younglings were valuable assets, legally acquired through conquest, as is our right under ancient treaties. They were children, said quietly, and no treaty gives anyone the right to enslave the innocent. Judge Martinez looked at Lisa. Paramedic Morgan, you are listed as a witness. Please step forward. Lisa walked to the platform, trying not to show how nervous she was. 1,000 eyes watched her from all directions. You treated after his ship crashed. Why? Because he was dying. Someone needed to help him. You knew what he was, what his species is known for. I knew he was hurt. That was enough. Many beings would have left him to die, especially given the reputation for violence. Why didn't you? Lisa thought about how to answer. She looked at standing there in chains and remembered finding him in that crashed ship. Where I come from, we have an old tradition in medicine. It's called the oath. It says that doctors should help all who need help, regardless of who they are or what they've done. I'm not a doctor, but I took a similar oath when I became a paramedic. I swore to treat anyone who needed treatment. It didn't matter if it was human or alien, friend or enemy. He was dying. I could help. So I did, even though he was accused of serious crimes. I didn't know about any crimes when I treated him. I just knew he needed help. And even if I had known, it wouldn't have changed anything. Medical care isn't something you earn. It's something everyone deserves. The chamber erupted in noise. Various species argued in their own languages. The human judge had to call for order 3 times. Stepped forward again. This human soft thinking is irrelevant. My clan has filed charges. The law must be upheld. The law is not the same as justice, Daniel Brooks said, rising from his seat. And this council was founded on justice, not just rules. Humans sneered. Always thinking your way is superior. You have been part of the coalition for barely a generation. We have been members for centuries. We know how the galaxy works. Do you? Daniel asked. Because from where I stand, your way of doing things is killing your people. You cast out anyone who shows mercy. You let the wounded die rather than appear weak. And your population declines year after year because you value strength over survival. We are strong enough. Are you? Because one human with a basic medical kit saved a life that your entire clan would have left to die. That doesn't sound strong to me. That sounds afraid. The judges conferred quietly among themselves. Finally, Judge Martinez spoke. This council will take a recess to cons 3 months after the trial. Lisa was back on, trying to return to normal life. The council had ruled in his favor, granting him asylum and launching an investigation into clan slavery practices. And several clan leaders were now facing charges themselves. Had been recruited by the coalition as an investigator, using his knowledge to help shut down slave operations across several systems. Lisa had become briefly famous. News services across the galaxy had covered the trial. They called her the human who saved a warrior and challenged the coalition's approach to medical ethics. She had given interviews, answered questions, and generally been overwhelmed by attention she never wanted. Now she was home, treating miners with broken bones and colonists with space flu. It should have been peaceful. It was not. The first visitor arrived on a Tuesday. Lisa was updating medical records when her door chimed. She opened it to find something that looked like a floating crystal formation, roughly human-sized, with lights pulsing through its translucent body. Paramedic Lisa Morgan. The voice came from a translator device floating beside the being. Yes, can I help you? I need your assistance. The crystal being floated inside without waiting for invitation. My daughter is dying. My people's healers say she cannot be saved, but I have seen the news reports. You saved her with simple tools. Perhaps you can help her. Lisa blinked. I'm sorry, but I've never treated her before. I don't know anything about your biology. Neither did you know biology, yet you succeeded. Please, I have traveled far to find you. Lisa looked at the desperate parent floating in her clinic. She thought about turning them away, explaining that she was just a paramedic, not a miracle worker. But she also thought about dying in that crashed ship and how close she had come to walking away. "Tell me about your daughter." Brought her daughter in the next day. The child was smaller than her parent, her crystalline body clouded and dim where it should have been clear and bright. According to, the girl had a genetic defect that caused her internal matrix to deteriorate. Healers had declared her defective and refused treatment. Their culture practiced what they called purity selection, eliminating imperfect young to strengthen the species. "She is my daughter," said, lights pulsing frantically through her body, and what Lisa had learned was a sign of distress. "I do not care what the healers say, she deserves to live." Lisa spent 2 days researching biology using every database she could access. She contacted, who connected her with Coalition. She learned that were crystalline silicon-based life forms that operated on entirely different principles than carbon-based species like humans or. But the more she learned, the more she saw similarities, needed specific mineral balances in their bodies, just as humans needed proper hydration and electrolytes. Their crystal matrices had to maintain certain structures, not unlike how human bones needed calcium. They processed energy through photosynthesis but also required trace elements, similar to vitamins. On the 3rd day, Lisa tried something simple. She created a solution based on human electrolyte therapy, modified with minerals she hoped would stabilize the child's matrix. She had no idea if it would work. She half expected it to make things worse. She carefully introduced the solution to the child's system, monitoring constantly for negative reactions. For 2 hours, nothing happened. Then slowly, the cloudiness in the child's body began to clear. Light started to pulse through her crystalline structure more strongly. By morning, the girl was brighter and more active than she had been in months. Wept, which ferment lights flashing in rapid, chaotic patterns. "You saved her. With simple minerals and water, our healers said it was impossible." "It might not last," Lisa warned. "This could just be temporary stabilization. She'll need ongoing treatment." "Then I will stay. I will work in your colony and bring her to you every day. Please do not send us away." Lisa did not send them away. She kept treating the child, adjusting the formula as she learned more. Other colonists were skeptical at first, but they gradually accepted the crystal beings living among them. Then word spread. Within a week, another ship arrived. This one carried an engineer who had been treatment for radiation poisoning because his insurance had lapsed. His own people would have let him die over paperwork. Lisa treated him with chelation therapy adapted from human protocols. He survived. 2 days later, a merchant arrived with a degenerative nerve condition. Then a miner with a parasitic infection. Then a female who had been cast out by her clan for sustaining injuries in battle. Each one had been turned away by proper medical facilities for various reasons. Too expensive, too much risk, not worth the resources, defective, shameful. Lisa treated them all. She used her basic medical knowledge, adapted human techniques, and learned from each patient. Success built on success. Her small clinic became a refuge for the rejected and desperate. Administrator Blake was not pleased. "Morgan, you're turning this colony into a hospital for the galaxy's outcasts. We don't have the resources for this." "They're not asking for much, just basic care." "Basic care that you're providing for free. How are you even affording supplies?" "The patient's help works in the hydroponics bay. The engineer fixed half our broken equipment. The miner brings rare minerals. We trade services." "That's not how the economy is supposed to work." "Maybe the economy needs to change." Blake rubbed his temples. "You're going to get yourself in trouble. The Galactic Medical Consortium is already asking questions. They're not happy that an uncertified human is treating multiple species." "Are they unhappy because I'm doing it wrong, or because I'm proving they've been doing it wrong?" Blake had no answer to that. The real trouble came when an elder arrived with 5 young warriors. Lisa was treating the child when they entered her clinic. Every patient in the waiting room tensed, still meant danger to most species. The elder, whose name was, looked around the small clinic with obvious disdain. "You are the human healer, the one who saved the traitor." "If you mean the one who saved a dying patient, yes." "I come seeking understanding. My people have always believed that accepting aid is weakness. That survival must be earned through strength alone, but lives because you helped him. And he has used that life to expose crimes within our clans. This suggests that perhaps our old ways are not entirely correct." Lisa set down her medical scanner. "What are you saying?" I am saying that these 5 warriors are injured. Minor wounds by our standards, but they are infected. Normally, we would tell them to endure or die, but I wish to try your human approach. Will you treat them? Lisa looked at the 5 young. They were all trying to look brave, but she could see pain in their eyes. Old wounds that had not healed properly. Infections that had gone too long without treatment. Of course, I'll treat them, but I need them to understand something first. She stepped in front of the warriors. Accepting medical care doesn't make you weak, it makes you smart. A healed warrior is stronger than a wounded one. There's no honor in unnecessary suffering. One of the young warriors spoke, but our clans teach that pain builds character. Pain teaches you to avoid damage, that's all. Character comes from your choices, not your wounds. Lisa began examining the first warrior. Now sit down and let me help you. Your elder has made a wise choice by bringing you here. Word of the elder's visit spread quickly. If proud warriors were seeking human medical care, then perhaps it was not so shameful after all. More patients arrived. Lisa's clinic expanded. She trained several colonists to assist her, teaching them the basic principles she had used. Treat the underlying need. Focus on fundamentals. See the living being, not just the species. 6 months after his trial, Daniel Brooks returned to 442. He found Lisa in her clinic, treating what looked like a small dragon with a broken wing. Busy, he asked. Always this is, Shiza fell off a mining platform. Lisa carefully wrapped the wing. You're not here just to visit, are you? No, the Galactic Medical Consortium has filed a formal complaint against you. They say you're practicing medicine without proper certification. Lisa did not look up from her work. Are they wrong? Technically, no. You're not licensed to treat alien species. Are any of my patients complaining? The opposite. We have testimony from dozens of beings whose lives you saved. The consortium is arguing that you got lucky, that your methods are dangerous and unproven. And what do you think? Daniel smiled. I think you're doing something revolutionary. Dr. Helen Carter has been studying your techniques. She says you've developed what might be the first truly universal approach to emergency medicine. By focusing on basic life support and simple interventions, you're treating needs that all living things share. It's just common sense. Maybe, but common sense isn't common across the galaxy. Most species develop their medical knowledge in isolation. They have sophisticated treatments for their own kind, but struggle with others. You're showing that simple human medicine, the kind we've practiced for centuries, might work on species we've never even met before. Lisa finished with and moved to her next patient, with chemical burns. So what happens now? Do they shut me down? That's what the consortium wants. But there's going to be a hearing. They'll examine your methods, review your success rates, and decide if you're a danger to public health or a pioneer in cross-species medicine. Daniel watched as she treated the floating jellyfish-like being with what looked like simple burn cream. The hearing is in 2 weeks, at Coalition headquarters. I can't leave for 2 weeks. I have patients. I know. That's why they're bringing the hearing here, to 442. They want to see you're the Galactic Medical Consortium arrived with an entourage that made Administrator Blake nervous. 20 medical experts representing different species, legal observers, coalition officials. They set up in the colony's main conference hall, which had to be modified to accommodate beings of various sizes and environmental needs. Lisa was not allowed to attend the first day of hearings. She stayed in her clinic, treating patients and trying not to worry. Her patients were worried enough for everyone. They will shut you down, said Lights Poolsing anxiously. They will say you are unqualified and dangerous. Then what will happen to my daughter? I don't know, Lisa admitted, but whatever happens, I'll make sure she's taken care of. Arrived that evening. He had been appointed as a coalition investigator and had clearance to attend the hearings. He found Lisa sitting outside her clinic, watching the purple sunset. The consortium is building a strong case, he said, settling his bulk beside her. His injuries had healed completely, leaving only scars. They argue that you lack proper training, that your methods are unscientific, and that your success rate is purely luck. Is that what you think? I think I would be dead if not for you, as would dozens of others. His tail swished slowly. But I am not a medical expert. My opinion means little to them. Did anyone speak in my defense? Many, your patients have been testifying all day, brought documentation of her daughter's recovery. The elder spoke about how you changed his warriors' perspectives on healing. even Captain Pierce, that your treatment of me was competent and effective." He paused. But the consortium's lead representative, a named, dismisses all of this as anecdotal evidence. He demands clinical data, peer-reviewed studies, proper certification. Lisa laughed without humor. "Of course he does. How am I supposed to have clinical studies? I'm just trying to help people." "That may not be enough for them." The next day, Lisa was finally called to testify. She walked into the conference hall to find it packed with observers. All her patients were there, along with colonists and what looked like reporters from various news services. The 20 consortium experts sat in a row at the front, their expressions ranging from skeptical to hostile. The lead representative was a tall mantis-like being with compound eyes that glittered in the light. He spoke through a translator in a sharp, clicking voice. "Paramedic Morgan, you stand accused of practicing medicine without proper certification. Do you deny this?" "No, I'm not certified to treat alien species." "Yet you have done so repeatedly. Why?" "Because they needed help, and no one else would provide it." "That is not your decision to make. Medical care must be regulated to ensure safety and efficacy. Your lack of training could have resulted in deaths." "But it didn't. Every patient I treated survived and improved." "By luck," pulled up holographic displays showing complex medical scans. "You treated a child with a simple mineral solution. Do you understand the biochemical complexity of crystalline life forms?" "No, but I understood that she needed stabilization. I provided that." "You guessed, you experimented on a child." "I made an educated decision based on fundamental biological principles. All life needs certain basic elements to function. I provided those elements in a form her body could use." "Without understanding the consequences." "The consequence was that she lived. Her own people's healers had given up on her." His mandibles clicked in what might have been irritation. "Her own people's healers made a determination based on their species' survival protocols. You interfered with established cultural practices." "Cultural practices that would have killed a child." "That is not for you to judge." Lisa felt her temper rising. "Actually, it is. When a parent brings me a dying child and asks for help, I help. I don't check what their culture says about it first. I don't ask if it's economically efficient. I just help. That's what medicine is supposed to be." "That is what human medicine claims to be," corrected. "The rest of the galaxy operates on more practical principles. Resources are limited. Not everyone can be saved. Difficult choices must be made." "Then I'll make the difficult choice to try anyway." Daniel Brooks stood up from the observers section. "If I may address the consortium, Paramedic Morgan's approach, while unorthodox, has produced remarkable results. Dr. Carter's analysis shows a 97% success rate across multiple species. That exceeds most certified facilities." "Success rate is meaningless without proper context," replied. "We do not know how many of her patients would have survived without intervention. We do not know what long-term effects her treatments might cause. And we cannot allow uncertified individuals to simply experiment on whoever asks for help." "Even if those individuals have nowhere else to turn?" Daniel asked. "That is unfortunate but irrelevant. Standards exist for reasons." Suddenly floated forward, her crystalline body flashing with agitation. "My daughter was dying. Your standard said she should die. This human said she should live. Which standard is better?" "Your emotional attachment to your offspring is understandable, but clouds your judgment." "My daughter is alive. That is not clouded judgment. That is fact." Other patients began to speak up. The engineer, the miner, the warriors, each told their story. Each explained how they had been turned away by proper medical facilities and how Lisa had helped them when no one else would. Listened to all of this with growing frustration. Finally, he raised a manipulator for silence. "These testimonials are moving but prove nothing. The question before this consortium is not whether Paramedic Morgan means well. It is whether she should be allowed to continue practicing medicine without certification. The law is clear. She cannot." "Then perhaps the law needs to change." Everyone turned to see Dr. Helen Carter standing, the walk to the front of the room carrying a data pad. "I have spent the last 3 months analyzing Lisa Morgan's methods. I have reviewed every treatment, every patient outcome, every technique she has employed, and I have discovered something extraordinary." Helen activated a holographic display that showed complex biological models. Every species in the galaxy developed medicine in isolation. We became experts at treating our own kind but struggle with others. Cross-species medicine requires extensive training and still has high failure rates. But Lisa Morgan, with nothing but basic human first aid knowledge, has achieved success across dozens of different biological systems. Do you know how? His mandibles twitched. We assume random chance. Not chance, fundamentals. Helen expanded the display. Lisa focuses on what all life shares rather than what makes us different. All biological systems need energy. All need appropriate chemical balances. All need waste removal. All need structural support. By addressing these basic needs with simple interventions, she created what I believe is the first truly universal medical protocol. Impossible, life is too diverse. Not at the fundamental level. Yes, we have different specific requirements, but the underlying principles are remarkably similar. Lisa proved this by saving a warrior with human antibiotics. Those drugs should not have worked on biochemistry, but they did because infection is infection, regardless of species. The mechanism might differ, but the need to fight foreign organisms is universal. Helen pulled up more data. I have been working with coalition medical schools to test Lisa's approach. Early results are promising. Student medics trained in her methods show improved outcomes when treating unfamiliar species. Not because they know more about specific biology, but because they focus on universal needs first. Studied the data for a long moment. This is preliminary research. It proves nothing conclusively. It proves that Lisa Morgan is not just a lucky amateur. She is a pioneer who stumbled onto something the rest of us missed because we were too focused on complexity. Sometimes the simplest approach is the most effective. The consortium experts conferred quietly among themselves. Lisa watched nervously, wondering if any of this would make a difference. These were beings who valued credentials and protocols. She had neither. Finally spoke. The consortium will deliberate and render judgment tomorrow. This hearing is adjourned. That night, Lisa could not sleep. She lay in her quarters thinking about what would happen if the consortium shut down her clinic. Where would her patients go? His daughter still needed treatments. The warriors were making progress. The engineer was teaching her new techniques. All of that would end. Found her sitting outside again, staring at the stars. You should rest. Can't too much thinking. About the judgment. About all of it. 6 months ago, I was just a paramedic on a backwater colony. Now I'm apparently revolutionizing galactic medicine. How did that happen? You cared when others did not. You acted when others hesitated. You saw need and answered it. Settled beside her. That is how all revolutions begin, one person choosing differently. But what if they shut me down? What if all this was for nothing? It was not for nothing. I live because of you. Daughter lives because of you. Dozens of beings across this colony live because of you. Even if the consortium forbids you from treating aliens, you have already changed things. You have shown that mercy and healing are not human concepts. They are universal values. The consortium doesn't seem to think so. The consortium is wrong. His yellow eyes glowed in the darkness. My people have a saying, the strongest warrior is not the one who never falls. It is the one who rises after falling. You have risen, Lisa Morgan. Whatever happens tomorrow, that cannot be taken from you. The next morning, the conference hall was even more crowded. It seemed like the entire colony had shown up, along with patients from other settlements who had heard about the hearing. The 20 consortium experts entered and took their seats, stood to deliver the judgment. This consortium has reviewed all evidence regarding paramedic Lisa Morgan and her medical practices. We have heard testimony from patients, reviewed clinical data, and examined her methods in detail. He paused, his mandibles clicking slowly. Our judgment is as follows. Lisa held her breath. Paramedic Morgan is guilty of practicing medicine without proper certification. However, the consortium acknowledges that existing certification standards were designed for species-specific care and do not adequately address cross-species emergency medicine. Therefore, we are establishing a new category of medical practice, universal emergency response. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Paramedic Morgan will be granted provisional license to practice universal emergency response medicine under coalition oversight. She will be required to document her methods and participate in training programs for other medical personnel. In return, she may continue treating any species that requests her aid. Lisa felt relief wash over her. She could keep helping, but was not finished. Furthermore, the consortium is launching a galaxy-wide initiative to incorporate universal emergency response principles into standard medical training. All coalition medical facilities will be required to provide basic care to any being in critical need, regardless of species or ability to pay. The crowd erupted in cheers. Lights flashed so brightly she looked like a disco ball. The warriors roared approval. Even, usually so stoic, showed his teeth in what Lisa had learned was a smile. Daniel Brooks approached Lisa as the crowd celebrated. "You did it! You actually changed the system." "Helen Carter did it. She's the one who proved my methods work." "She provided the science, but you provided the example. You showed the galaxy that compassion and competence are not opposites. That sometimes the simplest answer is the best answer. That every life, no matter how alien, deserves a chance." 1 year later, Lisa stood in a classroom on the Coalition capital world. Before her sat 30 students representing 15 different species. They had come from across the galaxy to learn universal emergency response medicine. "Remember," Lisa told them, "you will encounter beings whose biology is completely unfamiliar. You will face situations where textbook knowledge is useless. When that happens, focus on fundamentals. What does this being need to survive right now? Can you stop bleeding? Can you stabilize injuries? Can you provide basic support until more specialized help arrives?" A young human student raised his hand. "What if we don't know enough about their biology?" "Then you learn, you observe, you listen to what the patient or their family tells you, but most importantly, you try, because the worst thing you can do is nothing." Lisa thought back to that day in the crashed ship, Finding Dying. "I treated my first alien patient with a basic first aid kit and a lot of hope. I didn't know if it would work, but I knew that trying was better than walking away." Who served as her assistant instructor nodded his massive head. "Survival is earned through many means. Strength, yes, but also wisdom, compassion, and the courage to help those who fall. These are all warrior virtues." After class, Lisa returned to her small office to find Daniel Brooks waiting with news. "The Coalition Council wants to honor you. They are creating the Morgan Award for Medical Excellence. It will be given annually to medical personnel who provide exceptional care across species boundaries." "They are nomming an award after me." "You changed how the galaxy thinks about medicine. You proved that basic human values, compassion, and dignity for all life are not weaknesses but strengths. That deserves recognition." Lisa shook her head in amazement. "All I did was help someone who needed help." "Exactly, and that simple act started everything else." Daniel smiled. "Your patients call you the divine healer, not because you perform miracles, but because you remind the galaxy that healing is sacred. That life, all life, matters." Lisa looked out her window at the Coalition capital. Ships from 100 worlds filled the sky. Beings of countless species walked the streets below. And somewhere out there, maybe on a remote colony or a damaged ship or a desperate shelter, someone needed help. She picked up her medical kit, the same battered case she had carried to that crash site a year ago. Some things did not need to change. Some principles were universal. "Come on," she said we have students to train." The big rose and followed her. As they walked through the halls, other beings stopped to nod respectfully. Some called out thanks. Others simply watched the human and with quiet appreciation. Lisa Morgan had started with one simple choice: help a dying being. From that choice grew a movement that reshaped galactic society, not through force or cunning or technology, but through the oldest human tradition. See someone who needs help, provide it, ask nothing in return. In the end, the tools and techniques mattered less than the fundamental truth Lisa had always known. Every life, no matter how alien, no matter how different, deserves a chance to continue. That was the lesson she taught. That was the legacy she built. And that was why the galaxy would remember her not as the divine healer, but as the human who taught them all to be healers. In firsthand, Lisa looked around her crowded clinic, daughter playing with holographic toys in the corner, the warriors waiting patiently for follow-up treatments, the engineer helping repair equipment, the dozens of beings who had nowhere else to go. "Let them come," she said. "I have nothing to hide. All evidence, we will reconvene in 6 hours with our decision." As everyone filed out, caught Lisa's eye. For the first time since she had met him, the big smiled. "Because it continues to be true," closed his eyes. Thank you, Lisa Morgan, for my life, and for reminding me that perhaps honor and mercy are not opposites after all. Lisa smiled and finished her coffee. Outside, the coalition ships maintained their orbit, waiting. She had 48 hours to figure out what came next. For now, that would have to be enough. The ship continued to burn. Above them, the purple sky of 442 darkened as night approached. And in the colony ahead, Administrator Blake was making calls that would change both their lives forever. But in that moment, Lisa Morgan only cared about one thing: keeping her patient alive.